All right, and it looks like we have just about everybody here. So if everybody could please take a moment and drop their name, email, address, and educational program or company that they're associated with in the chat. So we have a record of everybody that's here. And then we're going to go ahead and kick it off. And Leanne is going to go ahead and open up with some of our questions.
Okay, great. So again, this is supposed to be a very open conversation, totally safe space. But was wondering if anybody, the first question asked is, what are the biggest unknowns you face at your institution regarding IAED? So that's a big question. So anyone would like to share?
Not everybody at once. I was going to say, I think it's fear of the unknown. I think it's the fact that we haven't approached this as an organization. So starting the conversation can be a difficult one. We don't really have the data or metrics to know where we are or where we need to go. And I don't know if that's common. I don't know if that's what other people are experiencing as well.
Well, and I will share as part of our mentorship program, just even approaching some of the institution's leaders. Some of those in our mentorship program were like, how do I go about approaching them? How do I go about, if I have a suggestion for a statement, how do I, they felt uncomfortable even just with the approach. So again, just in general, I think people are very anxious to effectuate change, but then trying to navigate how, to make everyone feel comfortable with those conversations. So anyone else, biggest unknowns you face at your institution?
It might be a long 20 minutes, Leanne.
That's okay.
Well, I'll throw this out there as, we're not an institution. We're the people that are hiring. Our members are the ones who are hiring the people that are coming out of the programs. And I think our biggest issue is they don't see an issue with having to worry about any D&I programs or inclusive programs because there are jobs that are open. So why wouldn't people go after those jobs? I mean, that is a huge mindset that we have of our membership, and having to be able to let them know why they do need to do it when they don't think there's a reason, because it's have openings, why aren't people applying?
I think that's great feedback, because I do think that there's a complete gap. I mean, I know even for our organization, we were looking to do recruiting posters and they sent them to me, and no offense to all the old white guys here, but I'm like, it's a bunch of old white guys in the posters. This is not the demographic that we're looking to hire. This doesn't look like our team. And again, a lot of times I think it's people are completely unaware. So how do we start to shine that light on the fact that there is an issue? People do not have equal access to those careers and pathways. How do we start to illuminate and kind of shine the light on that as well?
Hi, Tony. This is Keith. We talked about the other day, one of the things that I'm more of a tool maker than I am an educator, although that's where I've ended up at 64. But in the trades, we are historically prejudiced. And the shops I worked in, there was times I was surprised because I didn't grow up that way, but I saw that. And being close to Dayton, where we are, where Sinclair Community College is, we are so close to the minorities that we really need to be helping the most. But reaching out to them sometimes is so hard, because when we look at their access, the inclusion, and how do we give them accessibility when, and I heard a speaker one time that says, we're looking at them saying, you need high-speed internet to access these courses, yet the people we're talking to sometimes are worried about whether they're going to be able to eat tomorrow and even have electricity. So how can we, this is one of the big questions, and I wish I had the answers, and Lord knows if I did, the entire city of Dayton would be working. But we've got to reach out to these young people and make them realize that even if they're not good in math, we can train them. If they don't, there is a possibility to make a really good living wage here in this city and in this area. But it's just getting them in, and how do we do it? So Sinclair is got a great program, but we just can't do enough quick enough.
Thank you, Keith. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll volunteer. So I'm an architect, so I'm not a provider of jobs or a trainer, but I do create spaces for these programs and focus a lot on CTE, advanced manufacturing, and other kinds of things. So I've been involved with a lot of these kind of projects, and every community college that I've worked for is exceptionally preoccupied with DEI issues. It's almost always a top 3 mission goal. And yet, I think a lot of people just like you said, Tony, I think a lot of people have a hard time actually even articulating what the issue is. But I will say that in my experience, space itself isn't neutral. And the way that we design spaces, I think, does matter in terms of how people feel and whether they feel like they're part of the mission or welcome at all. And I think Keith said it well in a way too, that there's an overwhelming precondition out there in most training facilities and in most production facilities. And so I'm curious, I'm here because I want to learn how to make those spaces more welcoming, more appropriate. And so then the facilities themselves are an outreach tool.
Absolutely. I think I just spoke with one of my educators the other day who said, I want more diversity in my program, but I don't know that I can place them at some of my local manufacturers. And I said, well, maybe you need to fire some of your local manufacturers, because if you can't place any great student coming out of your program there, they're probably not a real partner. So I think part of it is we have to start having the conversation. I know there's a program I work with in Florida that they actually have an advanced manufacturing trailer that they take out into the community and park at a local manufacturer, and they recruit people in for 2-week boot camps that are right there in their neighborhood. So you can take out some of the transportation issues that you may run into as well. And you have to be within 8 miles of the manufacturer to participate, because that's about the distance that you can feasibly travel in the areas where they're working. And they've had great success. And I think they have about a 55% hire rate out of that. And then once the individuals that come through that short style training are hired and on board with a manufacturer for a couple of months, then they're actually enrolling in their pre-apprenticeship program. So they've found a way to actually get out into the community and make the programs more accessible for people that don't have the means. They don't have a car, or the bus line doesn't go from where their house is to where the community college is, or there's childcare issues. There's so many things that we have to look at and really start to change the conversation about how we deliver training. I think if COVID-19 has told us anything, it's that we've got to learn how to flex, and we've got, look at all the machine tool technology programs that haven't actually had people in a classroom, for almost a year. We're finding ways to make it work. So how do we do that? And how do we make sure there's internet access for online training, that there's, the capability for childcare and other options to be covered so people can access training resources?
Can I make a real quick statement? We had an advisor, we had a meeting over a couple of years ago, and we were discussing this very thing. How do we bring more people into manufacturing? People of color, minorities, we've got people that are coming in, immigrants. And how do we bring them in? Well, the lady told me, she said, the problem that you're facing in your community is that a lot of people are looking at their children and saying, we don't really want you to go into the blue collar work. We don't want you to go into manufacturing. We want to see you succeed farther and to go above to where the better paying jobs are. So I think some of it is we need to reach out to the community and show them that these are good paying jobs. But there are parents that say, I never made it to the bachelor's degree, and I want to see my son or daughter earn what I never earned. And I don't want to see them working in a factory where I worked for 30 years or 20 years and then got laid off. So we've got to reach out to those people too. It's the parents, again, like we talked about, reach out to the moms.
I just finished a project for Portland Community College, an advanced manufacturing training facility. And that was actually a top of mind, top 10 goal. We talked about that a lot, was not just recruitment of students, but recruitment of their parents, and changing the viewpoint that advanced manufacturing is not the greasy, grimy, kind of job that I think a lot of people think it might be. It's not that at all. And so we focused a lot on industries that are in the Pacific Northwest, like Nike, and using their kind of architecture to inform the space and make our spaces look as cool as that.
And I think that's a stigma across CTE that we've been so desperately trying to overcome. I think we make steps, but again, to your point, there's still a long way to go. Thank you, Greg and Keith. Anyone else?
This is Melissa McGregor, and I'm with Harper College. And I would say that one of the issues with access for some of my programs is testing. We have these placement tests, and I know that in some community colleges in some areas like California, they've kind of done away with the placement testing, but we still have it in place. And so many of the students that we're interested in get pushed to the developmental education, which is just costing them money and wasting their time. And I was really thrilled when Jarlath was talking about the skills-based training. I've been singing that song for a long time now, and I think we do need to focus more on skills than on degrees and certificates, and that's just my opinion.
That's a great point, Melissa. Anyone else like to share?
This is Jarlath. Thanks, Melissa. But just wanted to say about, I think I do want to echo some of the other folks that talked about, the parent as part of the equation, because it's, I think a lot of parents think the business major is the best choice for their son or daughter to go into, because, it gives you, potentially opens up a lot of different areas in kind of information technology work and more white collar jobs. But I just from our own experience with the actual data, first off, those kind of interdisciplinary majors, we did some work, or are doing some work with West Ed on showing that those majors actually result in less employment outcomes, less better, excuse my grammar, employment outcomes. And some of the jobs are available in the blue collar jobs, as Keith was saying earlier, are actually much better paid. And just getting that message out would be an important aspect of this whole conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarlath. Anyone else? All right, let's get to
I think you have a filter for your voice.
Yeah, there's an odd filter on. You sound rather chipmunkish.
Probably your son or daughter was playing around with your settings, maybe.
Yeah.
Not yet. No.
Click the arrow beside where it says mute and go to audio settings, see if you see it there.
How about now?
Much better.
Better. Yes, thank you.
That is a very different voice than what we were hearing. So that's perfect.
All right. So my name is George Palm. I'm with Glendale Community College in Glendale, California. And we had a problem with technology. I run the manufacturing technology program. We have a lot of CNC machines and manual machines. And so we were handing out computers through our department and signing them out. And we found out that there were a lot of issues because people didn't have computers that were up to date and computers that were advanced enough to run software such as Mastercam, SolidWorks, and some other programs that we use. So what we did was we decided to try a VPN And I tried it out last week with the IT department, and we were able to use an old Toshiba laptop running Windows 7, and we were able to run Mastercam 2020, 2021 on an old Toshiba laptop through the school. So the student logs in, they go and they log into our high-end computer, and with their low-end computer, they can use the software and practice at home. So that's what we did. And then we were setting up a manual machine shop. So and I informed the director. I said, well, it was the old welding shop, and so the floor was dirty and dingy, and so was the walls. And I go, look, we have to get away from this dirty, dark, and dangerous type of situation here, where everybody thinks that the machine shop is that. And so we ended up painting the walls, and we actually put a epoxy coating on the floor, and the shop looks marvelous. And the machines are already in there, and they're being hooked up. By the end of this week, they'll be 100% running. So. But we did find the situation that with the COVID-19, we do have a problem with the skill set training, because we don't have that face-to-face interaction. So what I tried to do now is include a lot of videos to show how the process is progressing with the manual machining and even with the CNC machining. But hopefully we can go back to like either a hybrid or a full face-to-face, because without that, we're missing that skill set, and the students really need to be on the machinery to get a real good grasp of that. So
I appreciate the fact that you found ways to access Mastercam remotely, though, because it's probably been one of my biggest hindrances. And I think it was you or that Clint and I were talking about yesterday,
Yes.
on helping to develop some recruiting strategies for you as well. But it is so important that we give access. And even, some of the high school students that live in rural areas, the dial-up and everything that they're working with still with internet are just barriers that we don't consider on a day-to-day basis. So,
well, the internet, let's see, the cable service spectrum that we have over here, usually what they'll do is they'll give students 60 days, I think, or even more for high-speed internet. So at a lower cost, so that helps us out quite a bit too. So.
That's fantastic. Perfect. Well, I may have to jump out because I have to go and pull everybody back into the main meeting, but feel free to keep the conversation going for another couple minutes.